theme music. Two Pilates Chicks. I'm Hillary.
I'm Davita.
And welcome. So, we are talking about props.
Props and assistive aids.
Yes. Proppy. To prop or not to prop?
That is the question.
That is the question. And what is a prop? Why? What's the purpose? It's a loaded question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Where to begin? And we kind of talked about the board client last time.
Our last episode was the board client and dealing with that.
Oh, yeah. So this is episode
4.
Season 4. What? Okay, yeah.
So
it was 3.
Last one was 3.
Yeah, 3.
Yeah,
okay.
This one's 4.
I promise we are mentally
order.
here.
So we have props versus assistive aids. Props being something that we use to enhance or connect to an exercise. Mm-hmm. So we have our balls, we have our rings.
TheraBand, which is our sponsor.
TheraBand,
they don't know
sponsor.
Yeah. TheraBand's balls, circles,
small props that you can add to something.
I'm looking around the studio. What else is there? What else?
Then we have like assistive aids, which can be like headrests,
bolsters.
Yeah, different things to help if somebody has a certain like injury or pathology of some sort to assist around. And there's not a real differentiation, but those sorts of things. And so when we pick props, is it good or bad? Why do we pick it?
And are we just picking it because they're bored and throwing stuff at the wall again?
And that's the first thing with a bored client. If we think they're bored and we're afraid, like we were talking about last time, if they say they're bored, are we just picking a prop to just add something to be like
exciting or different or
here's something new.
Or this will make it harder but no, it doesn't.
Yeah. It doesn't.
Just complicates everything.
But props can be used to help a client find a connection in the body. So we can pick something to add a little bit of intensity in a certain way if we want them. Let's say we're working a little bit of adduction with a ring or a ball because they're missing that inner line connection of the legs, for example. So we can use that to help them find that adduction connection. So then when we take it away and give them an exercise, they can then maybe find that more easily.
Yeah. And I like, and you were talking about your client that, I think it was knock-kneed, which I'll let you tell that story. But also I think, like, finding that, like you just talked about, that connection. So maybe it's that moment where the knees start to do something, knock-kneed, come out, or the leg isn't reacting in a certain way, and you're using this prop for them to feel this, like, oh, that needs to work because it wasn't working. Yeah, whatever it is. And
You're missing the connection.
They're missing that connection. So this prop now makes them go, oh, I feel that muscle and I didn't feel it before.
Yeah, like we woke it up or we made them aware of that muscle.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so we were talking about one of my clients who has been having some knee pain. She has some knee OA. So I was giving her a looped band around her knees to find that bit of abduction and that little bit of external rotation in footwork, so that the knees aren't knocking in, so that they're finding her parallel.
Right.
And so,
I like how you said her parallel.
Yeah, not just parallel.
No, because it's different
her parallel
for everybody.
Is very different. Because she has a lot of a very severe knock-knee position. And so we're working around that. And so I gave her, I'm not a very proppy teacher normally.
Neither of us, we're not proppy people.
Really. And so I chose to use this looped band for this client to do footwork for a handful of sessions to find that her parallel position in her footwork. And so then after a few sessions, I didn't give it to her. And I said, okay, now press out as if you still had that band there. Find that connection there. Yeah. And so she now has significant more awareness of where she needs her knees to be.
Like she feels the muscles that need to work.
She's aware of it. Yeah. And so what I was thinking about that was, if I'm only relying on this band to help her find that position, this prop, what happens when she goes out on the street? She's not walking around with the prop around her legs.
Let's hope not.
Right.
So that would not be good.
So we were talking about how it's all about finding the right prop for the right reason for a client, that these are tools for us to use to have a client connect to something.
Yes.
But then we need to graduate out of them and not rely on it.
Yes. And I think that's the key, too. It's like, I remember when I went through training and footwork, this is the same thing, and my feet roll in. So it's just, that's my pattern.
Your thing. Yeah.
My thing. And I have to work very hard, but I remember my teacher, he said, I want you to put this in, it's a very specific ball, put it right here. I want you to do your footwork, and I want you to do it for, until I tell you differently. But it got me to understand that whole connection all the way up and what wasn't working when I was doing my footwork. And then now I don't need to use it. But it's kind of like you start to feel what's not working or what is working.
Yeah.
And then the client can rely on their own body and internal messaging.
Yeah.
Of like that band around her legs going, oh, I'm not feeling that muscle. I need to figure out where, and the band's there. Oh, yeah, I can
imagine where it should be. And like some people don't have that proprioception, right? They're not aware of where it needs to be. So that's what we're teaching them. And so if they don't have any foundation of what we're talking about, a prop can be very helpful to find that connection in whatever exercise, in whatever way they need. Yeah. And they go, oh, we're waking that up. Oh, that's what you meant. Oh, that muscle.
Oh, I feel it now.
I have clients go, oh, I do have that muscle. Yep, it exists.
But I think it's important to understand when you're thinking about props, whether it's the ball or the circle or the TheraBand or whatever it is, is why. Why are you giving it to this client? Yeah. Not every client is going to have the same prop in the same place for the same thing. Yep. Because everybody's different. So why, and what are you trying to accomplish by using that prop?
Yeah. And we were talking about earlier, like, okay, are we using that prop to keep a client from getting bored? Yeah. It's not necessarily the best reason. I mean, we could use it to add some variety. We could definitely use it to change up an exercise. But again, what's the goal with the prop?
What's the goal for that client? Yeah. Yeah. Is it just to entertain them?
We're not here to entertain.
We're not here to entertain. So it's also another thing on that vein is this prop helping or is it hindering?
Yeah. Are they becoming reliant
on that prop? Mm-hmm.
Would they then be afraid of doing something without it? Because you've told the story of somebody who came from another teacher who was then afraid of working without a headrest.
Yeah. Well, it was a pillow. Yeah, and you were talking about, kind of the pillows that we use when people have some sort of like
vertigo, or
they're kyphotic, or scoliosis, or whatever it is, and you kind of
issue.
And they're in pain, and you're kind of getting them in a comfortable position.
There's a reason for using it.
There's a reason, and he's been doing Pilates for 20 some odd years, and he had a pillow, but it propped him up past. So his head was above his body.
Oh, so it wasn't even.
It wasn't even, right, and because he made me show him all the pillows, and then he picked his pillows. And I asked him. I said, "Well, what is a pillow for? Do you have vertigo? No." I said, "Is it pain? No." And his answer was, "Well, I've always done that." Yeah. And he would not let me not use the pillows. Right. Period.
So then he can't ever do a mat workout. He can't ever do, he can't go somewhere without a pillow. So that's limiting.
Hindering, yeah. And there's no reason for it. And so it's kind of like, why are you giving it to this person? And are we helping them or are we not? Yeah. Is it a crutch in a bad way?
Yeah. Or is it something where we're helping them find that connection? We're using it for, again, that purpose. But then can we then graduate them out of it to help them find that connection without the prop?
Without the prop. Yeah. And I think, and I was kind of telling you this, is like, and you can tell yours because I don't think we really dove into it because we didn't want to do it off the podcast. But when I went through training, and I think most trainings, unless it's, ones we'll talk about, but we didn't use props. It was like, these are the exercises, blah, blah, blah. And so I didn't learn about props until I started studying different lineages like Eve Gentry and Kathy Grant, where the props are very specific as to why you're using them and what the purpose is. And so, and like you were saying, Ron Fletcher with the towel. And so there's all these, ways of using a prop that's very, so that's how I learned it. It wasn't like, oh, put your magic circle here and do a teaser here and then squeeze your legs because it inner thighs and this and that. It was kind of like, this is very specific for a certain engagement or like we've been talking about.
Well, and like Kathy Grant straps that I love to do with
them
you
so much.
And when you give me them, like, I'm really working my arms, that arm back connection, the reach, like there's specifics.
And you could consider that a prop. I mean, it's these straps that are hanging from the Cadillac, and
I think we could.
The balls, she used all these different sizes and engagements, and it's true. It's like all these different variations of things. Like my teacher, they gave me this teeny tiny ball. It was like, hold this, and right here, it was very specific as to where it would go.
I want it here because of this, for this reason.
Yeah, and you cannot let that. It's like, there goes the ball.
And I do use that for some clients, like in some leg stuff. Here, have this ball, like maybe a light, airy ball. Do not let the ball drop. So we're finding that connection. And then, we lost the ball. Yeah. What connection did we lose? Oh, yeah, I did let that go.
Yeah, and this just hit me, too, because you were talking about the ball and the squishy ball, and it's like, I have a client that had a stroke, and so one side of her body doesn't work the same as the other. So we use the ball a lot to see if she can feel that she's engaging evenly as in drawing her legs in, engaging evenly, because it doesn't. So she can feel something against her leg.
Yeah, so you have that tactile feedback.
And the same with the bands, right?
Yeah.
So you can feel that.
And that's a really good point for anybody's neuro clients. If people work with neurological issues like that, like a stroke or MS, you can't just say, well, just move that. Because they can't. Oh, just squeeze evenly. They can't. They literally need a prop to be able to feed back into the body.
Yeah.
To then...
It's like spring. When you give people spring, it's like they need that feeling, like you said, because they can't, especially like, you just brought up MS. It's kind of,
You can't control
it. Control it.
You need that feedback. And so somebody like that, likely you would keep using the prop with them for a long time.
Until,
not maybe forever.
Maybe,
because that's right for them. And
they're not relying on it in a way that is a crutch.
Yeah.
But it is getting them stronger and more evenly balanced in those.
Connected. Yeah, finding the connection they need.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that even pull is, I use the ball now and then between the knees, just in a supine position, knees bent. And I asked some of my older clients, okay, squeeze the ball with both knees and then use just the right knee.
Yeah, and that's challenging
and then
for
just
some.
The left knee. And so it is helpful for that, like you're saying, to find the evenness. Is one side working more than the other? Can you feel both? What does it feel like to only work one side?
Yeah, and also it's that when you go into the whole talk you had about knees or hips, when you could go either way, knees or hips, and it's like people's parallel and people's external and internal are different on both sides. And trying to find where the movement pattern is in a way that works functionally for that person is using that prop to show, use like the circle. It's like, externally rotate the leg and have this happen, and internally or that kind of thing, instead of using it just like, I'm going to squeeze this circle. Yeah,
just like those adductor machines, like with weights in a gym.
I always think of Suzanne Summers and that Thigh Master.
Yes. Exactly.
Who, no offense, but
just lots of squeezes. But you could give a circle and ask somebody to squeeze very slowly. We're not just pulsing out of it. Just find that connection, that hold.
And feel what's happening.
Yeah.
Because really, if you think about squeezing that circle, and kind of the same thing with your ball, in one and the other, it's not just that inner thigh that's working.
Right. There's
and it's
full
like
connectivity.
It's full connection of like your hips and everything on your mat and your whole, then you've got the whole rotation of the leg. It's like all this stuff is happening.
Yeah.
That they're like, oh wait, I'm feeling. I always love that when they're like, get this look on their face and you're like, what's going on?
What did you notice?
It's like, well, I'm really feeling this. I'm really feeling, and you're like, oh, that's. But they're like surprised in a happy way. They're like, ooh, that's really cool.
Yeah, like light bulb moments.
Exactly.
They're like,
and that's what we need props for, is those light bulb moments.
Yeah.
To kind of go, this is what we want to be happening.
Yeah.
This is going to help you engage and connect in that way.
And then they can go do whatever exercise without it and feel that same connection and be like, oh, yeah, I do feel that now.
Yep.
Now I can get longer. Now I can hold it or whatever it is. And then that's where that connection is.
That's where that connection comes. Well, it's like when you have that client that comes in and they're like the bored client. And maybe they're not putting the effort in, which we talked about. And so maybe instead of just throwing the prop at them to like get them out of their boredom, you're throwing the prop at them to go, okay, let's really try to focus and get this to happen.
Let's deepen this
moment. And they're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I've never felt that before.
Yeah. So it's one of those, like in the last episode, we talked about the different levers you can pull with somebody who thinks they're bored. A prop can be another one of those levers if we're using it in the right way, not just throwing it at them like, okay, well, you're bored, here, squeeze the magic circle 100 times. It's like, okay, well, let's add this prop to this exercise, and I want you to focus on X.
Yeah. Because then, A, you gave them a focus, and B, they're probably going to get deeper into the work. And I think that would apply really well for that client that we talked about being bored that really just doesn't want to work out.
Yeah. Because also, if you add a prop, let's again say a magic circle, like it will make something harder if you then have to hold this extra thing. Maybe it's
and then try to maintain other stuff while you're holding this
maintain stability around this circle thing. It does add other factors to it. So it can, it can take them out of their, I'm bored. And then it's like, okay, well, here's more coordination to think about. Here's more things to have to focus on.
More synchronicity of your body and choreography of the body.
Yeah. And fighting that wobbliness, mobility versus stability, trying to find your center. So it definitely adds to it.
Yeah, and I think for that bored client, it's like key in terms of getting them to focus more and be in an exercise.
The thing that I think we were talking about before that we don't think is great is when we get stuck in a prop. Like, okay, here's 7 different props at once.
Yeah, I think I told you this, and I'll say, and I had a teacher, and this was great because he was going through the teacher training. He was actually a professional bike racer, like pedal bike, not a motorcycle, but a pedal bike.
Exactly.
And he actually coached people on training, like had machines on the bikes and all this stuff. So he was very aware body-wise, and he wanted to become a Pilates teacher because he thought it went really well with...
That's super cool. It does.
Super cool.
Yeah.
But his girlfriend at the time was also a Pilates teacher, and he went and was like doing a class or something, I forget, and he looked across the room and there was a teacher with her client who had every single prop in the studio surrounding this client, and he just watched, and it was like, just like he said, he had every prop you could think of. And he's like, she was Proppy. And he used the word Proppy, and I thought, that's great. But he was like, I didn't understand why.
Yeah.
Like, what all the props were for. And I think that's the key. It's like, I don't know. Maybe she was, like, trying to find the perfect prop at the time. I don't know. But it's kind of like that. We don't want to be the one that just is throwing all these props at. It's almost like a Saturday Night Live skit. Hold the circle. Now do this, do that. Now hold the ball.
Jumping and we have seen, on the socials, like certain things with somebody with 6 different props at once, and you're like, well, if you're doing, splits on the side splits on the reformer, why do you also need a band around your knees? Like, the reformer's already there, and that's not helping the client find a connection. It's just doing the thing we're saying, like the board,
proppy. But I think that's it. It's like, what's the purpose of it for this client in this moment?
Yeah.
It's to, why am I giving them this? Because you have the spring on the reformer already. So
for like that example, you're already using the spring for that abduction connection. So what is the point of the band there? If they are a larger person, like a taller, like a big guy or something, if they need more
player guy.
Yeah, if they need more weight, you can add another spring. Like, there's other ways to go about that rather than, we need a prop because it's more interesting.
Yeah.
So
sometimes I wonder, though, if it's like just for social media sometimes.
For
because sometimes I'm like, they can't possibly be doing that because it's scary. It's dangerous.
I wouldn't want to be on side splits and with a band on my knees.
No, I would be the one that would fall off the reformer because I would like
trick yourself.
I would.
For me, I would just feel my low back.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is you have to think about, especially with around our legs, is what you're doing for that person, because a lot of times that instability, things can happen, and are you like putting too much effort? And do they not really have that bandwidth in that moment to really know where they should go with it?
Yeah, and that's a good point too. And with the where you're placing a prop on the legs makes a huge difference.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to say.
So, there are, if you place the looped band around the feet versus ankles versus knees versus higher up towards the hip, huge difference where you're...
and where it's going to go.
Yeah. And so if somebody's very, hippie, I have some clients that were trying to get out of the hip flexor TFL to get a little more glute medius for very specific reasons. And I don't put a band in certain places because it's going to just go fire right into where I don't want it for them because they're so in that connection already, and we're trying to find a different connection.
And also watching their, which I know you do, watching their range of movement with that band.
Yeah.
Instead of I'll use a guy because this just seems to happen with guys, where you put the band on and it's like, I need more band. I need more. It's not.
I need a stronger band.
Yeah, I need a stronger band. It's like, it's not about opening it up all the way,
pushing out. Again, like a gym weight machine. That's not what.
But getting them to understand that, because it will, not for that guy because he's just some strong guy trying to get the band out. But it can go into these places that we don't want it to go.
Yeah. And so trying to, in that case, then we'd have to cue the client into, okay, we're not doing full range of motion that you're capable of. Let's keep it within the range of the mat, let's say. We're trying to do X and Y. Let's think about doing it that way and then see how it changes.
Or when you were doing if you think about the band the same way you did with the ball, instead of squeezing in, going out, and then doing one leg at a time, it's okay, only go out where you can keep this hip here, or only go out where this maintains, and kind of reining it in to where you can use the ball, but that same kind of process that instead of squeezing, it's out.
Giving them the boundaries to push against with the prop. Yeah.
Without getting proppy.
Yep. Not being proppy.
No proppy. So basically, with props, our feeling is that they have to have a purpose.
Yeah. Be proppy with purpose.
Proppy with purpose. We should make a shirt. Be proppy with Pilates. Proppy with purpose. But have a purpose. It's kind of like everything in Pilates, isn't it?
Yeah, it's everything. What's the goal?
Why?
Why are we picking it?
What is going to work for this person?
Yeah. And, sometimes you can pick a prop to just make something a little different and just have fun with it. That's okay, too.
Yeah.
That's totally fine.
Yeah.
But mostly, okay, we're using this because we're trying to do this or that.
Or even exploring kind of on that same... because if you think about roll-ups and you're noticing things, so you're like, oh, hold this bar.
Yeah. See how it changes
and aim towards that bar, or hold this band and pull to where you feel this. Keep it the whole time. Like, just kind of exploring it that way to get them to go, oh, that felt different because blah, blah, blah.
You find the different connections. It feels different. Yeah, it's great to use that to explore.
Yeah, and they'll tell you the answer.
Yeah. Oh, why did you feel differently with it like that? Oh, well, I noticed blah, blah, blah.
It was really hard to do this, or, oh, I felt this and I never felt that before.
Yeah. And that, again, is like a good lever to pull, again, for that bored client.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, connections. Like, okay, well, they're bored. Let's give them the prop, not just to make them have fun.
Exactly.
But change the exercise a little bit so they're more keyed in, paying more attention. Yeah, like, oh, that did feel different. So now they're a little bit more connected with us.
The same exercise, but they're just engaged in a different way.
Yeah.
So smart. Yeah. I like that one a lot, especially when you have clients that have been doing Pilates a long time and mat, and then you're noticing things and you're like, let's just try this and see what happens and go with it, and you'll see, like, especially like just pulling the band, right, and keeping that connection of the arms the whole time, because then you know they get lost. Right. The whole, like, collapsing in our roll-ups and all of these things. So it's giving them this moment of, like, oh, that needs to be happening, and it's not.
Yeah, they reconnect to what we maybe should be doing all the time, but we've lost
we verbalized maybe, but they're not feeling it. They think they are, but maybe they're not.
So it gives them a new way to find that connection. Be like, oh, again, that muscle.
Yeah, it's like that client was like, well, you never told me that before.
Oh my God, I've said that every day. But it clicks it on. It's like, that's what worked for that person.
So I think our main thing is, like, with props is not to look at it as something to get that bored client out of their boredom.
Yeah.
And to really use them with purpose. Yeah. Anything else?
And I think that's pretty good. And to graduate out of props when possible.
To not rely
using
on them.
Not relying on them, but using them, again, with that purpose.
Yeah.
For that reason.
Exactly. Like, oh, remember that ball? Remember that ball? Can you still feel that? Or can you remember that band? Feel that band. You feel that band? Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. And then they can do the whole classic mat series with all those connections moving through it because you used the band at one point. And so they know that connection that they need. And then you're like, look what you just did.
Look what just happened. So awesome. And you're not bored. No, I'm kidding.
And I'm bored.
And did we say who our
well, this time we are sponsoring, and we are sponsored by TheraBand.
Okay, someone's knocking at the door. We're going to have to shut it down.
We are done.
Thanks for listening. Bye, guys. Bye.